بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم وصلي عليه في كل لمحة ونفس عدد ما وسعه علم الله. I pray inshallah everybody is well. Welcome to the fourth lesson of chemistry of Tajwīd al-Huruf. Inshallah we're going to be covering we've covered the makharij al-huruf, we've covered the sifat al-huruf. Today's lesson, we're going to be combining the two together, inshallah, to see how to pronounce each letter correctly from its correct makhraj, and also incorporating the correct sifat also. We looked at yesterday the permanent characteristics that are divided into two groups, one with opposites, one without opposites. The one with opposites is then sub-categorized into 5 categories. You have hams and jahar, you have shidda and riqawa with tawassut in the middle, and then you've got isti'ala and istifal, the two opposites. You've got itbaq, and you've got the infitah, and the last one, which was nothing to do with the quality of sound, but rather the geography of the letters, al-idlaq and al-ismat. We also looked at the characteristics that didn't have any opposites: as-safir, qalqala, lean, inhiraf, taqrir, tafashi, istitala. So these sifat don't have opposites. So each letter now in the Arabic alphabet, it will have a particular makhraj, okay? Every letter in the Arabic alphabet will have a particular makhraj. Along with that makhraj, each letter will have certain characteristics. Depending on the letter, depending on its makhraj, the sifat will be different. No two letters in the Arabic alphabet have the identical makhraj and identical sifat. Let me repeat that again. No letter in the Arabic alphabet, okay, no two letters in the Arabic alphabet has the same makhraj with the same characteristics. Because if they did, the letter would be identical. Like, for example, mim and mim, ba and ba, qaf and qaf, okay? Identical makhraj and identical sifat and identical letter, basically. So each letter is slightly different. So today we're going to go and revise through what we've learned in the previous 3 lessons, inshallah. So I hope everybody's gone through their notes for the last 3 lessons and rehearsed and practiced. If not, we're not going to understand much in this lesson. Let's get this microphone right. If somebody can just drop a comment to let me know that the sound's clear, inshallah. Okay, so let's look at the first letter in the Arabic alphabet. The first letter of the Arabic alphabet, Hamza. Barakallah feek. The first letter, Hamza. So I want everybody to quickly rush through your notes, the notes that I sent out yesterday in the group, in the WhatsApp group, and pick out the have a look at the sifat that are found in the letter Hamza. First of all, the makhraj of the letter Hamza. The makhraj of letter Hamza is aqsa al-halq, the furthest part of the throat. Okay. Make sure you've got your pen and paper and start writing the sifat down, inshallah, as we go along. And then you can make your own little table, inshallah. So the first letter, Hamza, the first sifa that we find in the letter Hamza, it has the sifa of jahr. Okay, it has the sifa of jahr. So jahr is where the A is blocked. A actually stops. So if you remember the letters of Hams, فحثه شخص سكت, they were the letters of Hams, where the sound, where the breath continues. So the first group of the sifat is connected with the breath. Okay, so Hamza, the breath stops. Like ji'tum, ji'tum. That's the first sifa, jahr. The second sifa in huruf in the letter of Hamza is which one? Is it shidda, is it tawassat, or is it rakhawa? Which category does the Hamza fall into? If you look at the shidda letters, ajidu qatin bakat, ajidu, the first letter is the letter of Hamza. Okay, so that's two sifat in this letter now so far. We've got jahr and we have shidda. Okay, jahr and shidda, two characteristics. Does he have isti'la in it? No. Does he have itbaq in it? No. Does he have any other sifat like qalqala? No. Safir? No. Inhiraf? No. Tafashi? No. Istitala? No. Taqreer? No. It also has the sifa of ismat. Okay, it also has the sifa of ismat. So ismat was the opposite of idlaq. Okay, so it has ismat. It doesn't have idlaq. It doesn't have tawassut or hams or rekhawa. Istifal. Istifal is the next sifa of Hamza, and the last one he has is infitah. Infitah. Okay, these are the five sifat of the letter Hamza. It doesn't have the sifa of lin neither. So out of all the sifat that we studied yesterday, okay, of all the characteristics of letters, Hamza has five sifat. Okay, so what are the five sifat again? It has jahr, it has shidda, it has ismat, it has istifal, and the last one is infitah. There are five characteristics in the letter Hamza. Does that make sense? Now, let's look at each one of these sifas carefully and understand the letter Hamza a little further. So jahr was where the breath was coming to a stop. Okay, this is the blockage of breath when pronouncing the letter because of a strong reliance upon the makhraj. So the makhraj here is aqsa al-halq, okay, the furthest part of the throat. The second sifa that I mentioned was shidda. So what is the shidda? What's the khususiyya? What's the speciality about shidda letters? Shidda's letters, this is where the stoppage of sound occurs. So the sound also stops, like jita, jita, jita. So one, the breath stops because of the jahr. Number two, the shidda also in there, so the sound must also stop. Both. Ismat, as we discussed yesterday, has nothing to do with the quality of sound. Let's look at istifal. What sifa is istifal? What is the meaning of istifal? What's the benefit of istifal, having the sifa of istifal in it? So istifal is basically lowering the back of the tongue. So it's opposite of isti'ala, opposite of raising the back of the tongue. So you're going to keep the back of the tongue low. Okay? So it's not going to be a full mouth letter. Okay? So Hamza is not going to be a full mouth letter. Why? Because it has the sifa of istifal. The next sifa is infitah. So infitah means open. Okay. So infitah meaning the opposite of al-itbaq. Remember itbaq, the example that I gave yesterday of the roti and the boti, where you're capturing the sound, you're holding the sound. So in the letter Hamza, this doesn't exist. So it's going to be quite flat and open your tongue. Okay. So it's going to be infitah maftuh. Okay. So that's the last sifa of the letter Hamza. So these are the 5 sifat that are found in the letter Hamza. Okay, and the reason why we began with Hamza is because alif we will discuss later, because alif is always sakin. Alif never has a fatha, dhamma or kasra, and alif is layyina. Okay, it's vowelless, and alif is classified as one of the letters of jawfiyya. Okay, of the jawf, of the open space of the mouth and the throat area. Alif is also known as, one of the huruf al-maddiyya, okay, the letters of mad. So let's look at the next letter in the Arabic alphabet, the letter ba. Ba. Okay, does the breath stop in the letter ba? Of course it does. So it's also going to be a jahr letter. Does the sound also stop? Okay, in the letter ba. Ab. Of course it does. Okay, so we're going to also have the sifa of shidda. So you've got jahr and you've got shidda, 2 characteristics within the letter ba. Now, with this letter ba, because of the stoppage of breath and stoppage of sound, both of them, and it's so strong, okay, there must be another sifa to basically express the sound of the letter ba. Okay, and we discussed this yesterday, is the sifa of qalqala. The sifa of qalqala will come in to rescue the sound of the letter ba so that we can differentiate the letter ba from the other letters of shidda. Tamam? So, like the example that I gave yesterday, tabbat yada abi lahabin wa tab, tab, b. The b sound at the end, that's the qalqala. So now, we've got 3 sifat already for the letter ba. Okay? Qalqala didn't exist for the Hamza, so we've got it for the letter ba. The next one, is this letter ba a ismat letter or is it an idlaq letter? Okay? So this is also an idlaq letter. Okay? So this is an idlaq letter. Again, it doesn't have nothing to do with the quality of sound, but rather the geography, the location of the makhraj itself. The other 2 sifat that are found in the letter ba are istifal and infitah. Okay, istifal meaning the back of the tongue is lowered in the letter ba, so it's not a full mouth letter, it's going to be an empty mouth letter. And the last sifat that you can find in the letter ba is infitah. Infitah meaning there's no itbaq. Okay, there's no rolling of the tongue up and capturing the sound. Okay, so how many sifat do we find in the letter ba? We find 6 characteristics. So the makhraj of the letter ba is shafatain, your lips. Okay, and it has 6 characteristics. So it has 5 from the group that has opposites, and it has 1 sifa from the letters or from the characteristics that don't have opposites, which is qalqala. So make sure you're writing these down, the notes. Very simple. So letter ba has jahr, shidda, idlaq, istifal, and infitah. Next letter, the letter ta. Ta. So we mentioned yesterday that ta does not have the sifa of jahr, but ta rather has the sifa of hams, and hams was connected with the breath again. So the breath continues in the letter ta. Okay? And shidda is where the sound stops. With the sound stopping in the letter ta, we need something else to come in place. We need another sifa to basically allow the sound of the letter ta to become zahir, to become more apparent. So what's the sifa that the ta has? Okay, so the ta will have the sifa of hams. Okay, the hams in the ta will allow the ta to be more wadih, okay, more apparent. So the ta would have, it would have shidda, okay, and it also has hams. Ta is also one of the ismat letters. And from the last two categories, the ta has istifal and infitah. Okay, so istifal meaning it's the opposite of full mouth letter, meaning it's an empty mouth letter. Ta, ta, ta. And infitah meaning there's no itbaq, there's no capturing of the sound in the mouth. Now, a common mistake that is made for the letter ta is that we end up reciting as a full mouth letter, especially when you're reciting Surah Fatiha. Okay? So, when you're reciting Surah Fatiha, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Yeah, not mustaqim, mustaqim. Because the letter qaf after ihdina sirat al-mustaqim, the letter qaf follows the letter ta. We tend to recite the letter ta as a ta, okay? And we make it full mouth. Why? Because it makes more sense and it makes it more easier to make both of them full mouth, okay? So we try to cut corners, but rather the ta should be empty mouth, okay, and the qaf should be full mouth. So ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim, not taqim, wrong. Yeah, taqim, taqim. So that's a common error that's made in the letter ta by changing one of the sifa. And remember, the one of the most dominant sifas that are in the two letters ta and ta that differentiate with one and another is the qalqala of the ta when it's sakin, okay, and it's the istifal and isti'la that make it zahir. Okay, the main difference between the ta and ta, even though the ta has jahr and shidda, and the letter of ta only has shidda. Okay, with the jahr of the letter ta, that's more related towards the stoppage of breath, and that's because it has the sifa of al-itbaq. Okay, where it captures the sound. So when you compare the two letters together, the letter ta and ta, even though there's numerous differences in sifat, okay, but one sifa that stands out is the sifa of istifal and isti'la. By doing isti'la, you are changing the letter ta into a ta. Ta. So quick recap, the letter ta has shidda, it also has ismat in there, it also has hams, it also has istifal and infitah. The next one, letter number 4, tha. Tha does not have jahr nor shidda, okay? The breath doesn't stop and nor does the sound stop, okay? It's one of the ismat letters for sure. So the tha actually has the sifa of hams. So if it doesn't have jahr or shidda, it has hams. It also has rikhwa, okay? Rikhawa, the sifa of rikhawa. It's also istifal and infitah. It does not capture the sound and it's open, it's not a full mouth letter. Tha, tha, tha. Very soft letter. Like when you recite, for example, thamara, thamara, thamara. ثواب. Okay. ثمرة. The next letter, number 5, Jeem. So Jeem has the two dominant sifas, the sifa of jahr and shidda, where the breath stops and so does the sound. Just like the letter ba, if these two sifat are found in a letter, there must be a way to pronounce them or to make the sound become more apparent. So what do we look at the next sifa as qalqala? Does it have qalqala? Of course it does. The letter Jeem has qalqala. So why is the letter Jeem with the qalqala? Because the sifat of jahr and shidda, jahr and shidda stop the breath and they also stop the sound being released from the letter Jeem. So it must have the sifa of qalqala to become zahir. It's also one of the ismat letters. And the last two characteristics of the letter Jeem is istifal and infitah. It's not a full mouth letter, nor do we capture and hold the sound. Like Jannah, Jannah, not Jannah, yeah? Jannah, Jannah, Jahim, Jahim. Inshallah. So this also has 6 sifat, 5 from the opposites, with the additional qalqala as the 6th sifa. The next sifa, the next letter, the letter ha. Okay, letter ha, which is the 6th letter in the Arabic alphabet. It doesn't have jahr or shidda. Okay, it's one of the ismat letters. So what does the letter ha have? It has hams. Hams meaning the A continues, A does not stop. It also is one of the rikhawa letters. Okay, it has a sifa of rikhawa. Okay, where the sound continues. So sound does not stop. It's also istifal and infitah, meaning it's not a full mouth letter and it doesn't capture the sound like the itbaq letters. So ha has 5 sifat only, which are ismat, hams, rikhawa, istifal, and infitah. Like Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rah. The sound does not stop, the breath does not stop. Okay, so it continues. And it's one of the ismat letters. You remember what ismat meant? The letters that are not from the 2 lips and from the edge of the tongue, which are more further back. Idlaq letters are only farra min lub. Farra min lub. 6 letters of idlaq. So majority of the letters will be ismat. So ha, like ar-Rahman. Now, a common mistake here that's made, because the letter ha is an empty mouth letter, when you pronounce the letter ra prior to the ha, like in the word ar-Rahman, you end up reciting the ha also full. Why? Because the letter ra prior to the ha is also full mouth. Okay, so you should not recite the ha as full mouth. So when you recite it, you don't read ar-Rahman, ar-Rah, incorrect. Ar-Rah, incorrect. Okay, that's not the correct way of reciting. There's ar-Rah, ar-Rah, Rah, Rah. Tamam? So Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahman, and even with the Hamza is also an empty mouth letter. It also has the sifat of istifal and infitah. Okay? So the Hamza is also empty mouth, the Ra is full mouth, the Ha is empty mouth, the Mim is empty mouth, and the Alif too should be empty mouth, and the Noon at the end is also an empty mouth. So the only letter that's full mouth in the word Ar-Rahman, it's the letter Ra. So prior to reading the Ra, you must be your tongue should be in a position for an empty mouth letter, and immediately after pronouncing the letter Ra, your tongue should return back to the natural empty mouth position. So if you notice my lips, R, 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 Ar-Rahman, 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 Ar-Rahman. Yeah? So you must, from a empty mouth to a full mouth to an empty mouth, inshallah. I'll give you an example. If you're reciting this, and you'll notice how my lips move. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So each time I go full mouth, I go empty mouth. I go full mouth, I go empty mouth. Then unto Ar-Rahman. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rahman. Tamam? So the Ra, full mouth, Ha, empty mouth, inshallah. The seventh letter is the letter Kha. Kha. Okay? Which is the makhraj of the letter Kha is adna al-halq, from the top of the throat. Now, the letter Kha, it's the last letter of the throat. The last letter before we go into the mouth. The last makhraj, adna al-halq, we find the letter Kha. Now the Kha, there's no sifa of jahr, okay? There's no stoppage of breath, doesn't stop. The sound doesn't stop. Okay? So both of these two sifa are not found in the letter Kha. However, when pronouncing the letter Kha, okay, your tongue must be in a full mouth position. Why? Due to the sifa of isti'la. Okay? So the tongue must be raised from the back. Isti'la. Tamam? So that's the first sifa, raising the back of the tongue when you're pronouncing the letter Kha. It's one of the ismat letters, like many letters are. And it has the sifa of hams, where the breath continues. It also has the sifa of rikhawa, where the sound continues. Okay? So hams and rikhawa are found. It won't have istifal in there. Why? Why would it not have istifal? Because it has isti'la. Isti'la and istifal are the two opposites. Because it has one, it can't have the other. So here we won't have no istifal, but it does have infitah. Infitah meaning that the tongue and the palate are at a gap. It's open. Not itbaq where you're trapping. And remember, itbaq are only 4 letters. Yeah? Only 4 letters. Sad, dad, ta and dha. Only 4 letters that have itbaq. That's your letter Kha. Okay? You wouldn't really ask, for example, so with the letter Kha being a full mouth letter, you would not read it empty mouth. Okay? So you wouldn't say khatim. It's khatim. Khatim. Not khatim. You might mention khatim or say khatim In Ammiya, in slang, in Egyptian slang dialect, you might read the Kha as an empty mouth letter. Okay? So when you speak in Arabic generally, yeah? Khatim, Khatim. But the letter Kha is actually a full mouth letter. For example, for the letter Kha, like ولكن رسول الله وخاتم النبيين خاتم النبيين and you must have the little in there. If you don't have that in there, then you're not pronouncing it, because the adna al-halq, the closest part of the halq, okay, must touch the back of the hanjara. Okay, the back, not hanjara, but the back of your neck, the inner part. There must be some contact. Inshallah. So, khataman nabiyyin. Okay. Lesson number 8, Dal. Now, Dal has both Jahr and Shidda. The breath stops, and so does the sound stop. So inevitably, another sifa is going to be needed. Okay? You probably know what I'm going to mention now. Dal also has the sifa of qalqala, just like the Jeem, just like the Ba. So if you look at the common denominator or the sequence, the pattern, the Ba has Jahr and Shidda. So does Jeem have Jahr and Shidda. So does Dal have Jahr and Shidda. So it also has qalqala, okay? So qalqala, so that we can understand and work out the letter. Dal also has ismat. It also has istifal and infitah. So it's not a full mouth letter, and it does not have the sifat of itbaq. Okay? And the example for dal, like قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Ahad. Breath stops, sound stops. Qalqala is born. Yeah? قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Ahad. Now, qalqala actually has a very beautiful story behind, or I wouldn't mention story, I'll say quite a few interesting points, inshallah, which we're going to be discussing next week when we're actually practicing the Quran and looking at different ayat and words and letters from the Quran, inshallah. So we'll talk about the qalqala, and if I do forget, do remind me next week, inshallah. The next letter, number 9, Dhal. Dhal. Now, Dhal has Jahr. Okay? Adh. It has Jahr. Why does it have Jahr? Jahr is where the breath is coming to a stop. Okay? So it's in relation to your breath. So the breath does stop. But the sound does not stop. Adh. Because if the sound stopped, then we would need qalqala. Tamam? We would need qalqala to make the sound wadih. But because the sound continues, we won't need any other sifa for the letter dhal. The letter dhal has jahr. Letter dhal also has ismat. Okay? And then the next 3 sifat for the letter dhal are rikhawa, istifal, and infitah. Okay, rikhawa, sound continues. Istifal, the tongue is lowered. And infitah, where the tongue is parted from the palate, from the hanak. The next sifa, number 10, Ra. Now let's say Ra has the sifa of Jahr. So the first sifa of Ra is Jahr. Ar, okay, which is in relation towards the So the first sifa of the letter Ra, Jahar, which has the relation of breath. And after that, the next sifa that it has is one of the idlaq letters, meaning it comes from the tarf al-lisan. So it has the sifa of Ra, like the letter Ba we covered before. It's also a tawassut letter. Tawassut letter. Why? The sound doesn't stop and it doesn't continue. It's a bit of both in the letter Ra. Okay, remember the sequence Lin Umar I mentioned yesterday. Lin Umar, Lam Noon, Ain, Mim and Ra. So Lin Umar. So the sound does not stop and the sound doesn't totally continue as well. There's like a little decrease in sound. And this decrease in sound, okay, brings forth another sifa of the letter Ra, ثم كررن, the sifa of takrir, okay, the rolling of the tongue, okay, and this sifa is only found in the letter Ra, no other letter, okay, the sifa of takrir. So you've got takrir born because of tawassut, okay. Now the next two sifat are istifal and infitah. Istifal and infitah. So it's an empty mouth letter, okay? It's an empty mouth letter, and the Ra is parted from the hanak, meaning it doesn't capture sound. Now with the letter Ra can be recited full mouth also, okay, in certain scenarios, okay? If these scenarios don't come into existence, the letter Ra would always be pronounced as an empty mouth letter. I mentioned yesterday in the Tuhfat al-Atfal textbook, you could find the page number 44, which is a golden page, okay? So page number 44, you've got all of the scenarios for the letter Ra, which is very, very important to practice, to learn these scenarios. We're going to be looking at these scenarios next week, inshallah, of the letter Ra. Okay, more detail on letter Ra, inshallah. So the letter Ra has Jahar, it has Takrir, it's an Idlaq letter, Tawassut, okay, Istifal and Infitah. That's 6. But the letter Ra has one more sifa, okay, that makes it stand out from other letters, okay. The sifa of letter Ra has also, from the sifat of the letter Ra, it also has inhiraf. Inhiraf, which meant inclination or deviation of sound, okay. Remember the letter Ra touching the palate, and the A and the sound coming being blocked, can't come out. And it must inhiraf, okay, it must deviate around the blockage. Tamam? So inhiraf is the 7th sifa of the letter Ra. So letter Ra has 7 sifat. So far, all the letters had 5, 6, 5, 5, 6, okay? But this is the one that has 7. The letter Ra has 7 sifat. No other letter in the Arabic alphabet has 7 sifat. So you could put that as did you know? Did you know that letter Ra has the most sifat out of all the letters of the Arabic alphabet? So you can make that little note and you could ask the students and teachers which letter has the most sifat out of all the letters of our Arabic alphabet. And the reason why it has more, because of the sifa of inhiraf. Okay, inhiraf and takrir, the two it has from the additional sifat. Now, inhiraf is also found in the letter lam. Okay, lam and ra, inhiraf. But like ra, lam does not have taqreer, the rolling of the tongue. Yeah. So letter ra. So the letter ra, sifat of letter ra. Can you repeat? So letter ra has jahr, idlaq, tawassut, istifal, and infitah. It also has taqreer and inhiraf. Okay. Taqreer and inhiraf, which makes 7. These 7 sifat are found in the letter ra and only in the letter ra. No other letter in the Arabic alphabet has 7 sifat. The most they have is 6, and minimum is 5, between 5 and 6. Let's look at the next letter, number 11. Okay, number 11, the letter we pronounce it as za in Urdu or zay. In Arabic, modern Arabic, they also pronounce it as the letter za. The actual name of this letter is not za, but rather zay. So ra, zay, zay. Okay. It also has another name which is zain with the noon at the end. Yeah, zain. Okay. So these are the two names for this letter, not za, raza, raza. No. Okay. So when you're reading the Arabic alphabet, dal, dal, ra, za, no. Yeah. Dal, dal, ra, zay, or zain. So when you pronounce, when you're teaching the children in the masjid or wherever you teach, make sure you're teaching them correctly by giving the correct name of this letter, which is either Zay or Zain. So this letter Zay, it has a sifa of jahr where the breath continues. It also has the sifa of ismat. It also has the sifa of rikhawa, okay, where the sound continues as. Yeah. It also has istifal and infitah, meaning it's a empty mouth letter, and also it has infitah, meaning it's open and separated from the palate, the tongue is. These are your sifat of the letter Zay. Now these are 5 sifat, but Zay also has a 6th sifa. Okay, 6th sifa for the letter Zay is going to be the sifa of safir, the whistling sound. Yeah. For example, zumar, zumara, zumara. Yeah. Zzz. It's got that buzzing sound like a little bee or something. Yeah. That's the 6th sifa of the letter Zay or Zain. Twelfth makhraj is the letter, sorry, 12th letter is the Seen, the letter Seen. Now, Seen doesn't have Jahar, it doesn't have Shidda, it doesn't have Isti'la, Seen doesn't have Itbaq. Okay, so we start with Seen on Ismat. So it's one of the Ismat letters, and it has the sifa of Hams and Rikhawa, where the breath continues and the sound continues. It's also an Istifal letter and an Infitah. Okay, so it's an empty mouth letter and the tongue is parted, okay, from the palate. So these are your 5 sifat for letter Seen: Ismat, Hams, Rikhawa, Istifal, and Infitah. The 6th sifa of the letter Seen, just like the letter Zay or Zain, it also has the sifa of Safir in there, the whistling sound. Like وَالسَّمَاءِ وَمَا بَنَاهَا. Okay, now it would be incorrect for you to do a sakt, a pause on the Seen. That's another common mistake. So when you recite it as وَالسَّمَا, وَالسَّمَا. Yeah, so the sound should continue. وَالسَّمَا, وَالسَّمَا, وَالسَّمَا. Okay, so the sound should not stop in the letter Seen. The next letter, number 13. Can you repeat the sifat for Seen? Yeah, so the Seen has ismat, hams, rikhawa, istifal, infitah, which make up your 5. And the 6th one is Safir, Sad, Fa, Ya, and Ra, the whistle, the sifa of whistling. So number 13, sifa number, letter number 13 is Sheen. Sheen, like وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا. So the letter Sheen, from the middle of the tongue, was the lisan. Sheen has the sifa of ismat also. It's not from the front, so it's not a letter of izlaq. So Sheen, ismat. It also has the sifa of hams, where the sound continues, it doesn't stop. It also has rikhawa. Okay, so the hams, where the breath continues, rikhawa, where the sound continues, and then istifal and infitah, empty mouth, and the tongue is parted from the palate. These are your 5 sifat of the letter Sheen. Like ash-shamsu, ash-shamsu. But with these 5, the Sheen also has a 6th sifa. Okay, the 6th sifa of Sheen is the spreading of sound. Yeah, ash. This sh sound, the spreading of the sound, and the sifa is called at-tafashi. Okay, tafashi. Now this sifa is only found in the letter Sheen. This sifa is not found in any other letter. Tamam. That's 6 sifat for Sheen. The next one is Sad. The letter Sad. So Sad is also an ismat letter. It has hams where the sound continues, breath continues, and rikhawa where the sound continues. Okay, but it doesn't have istifal and infitah. Okay, like all the previous ones that we've been talking about so far. So far, every single letter so far in the Arabic alphabet, except for the letter Kha, so far in the Arabic alphabet, had istifal and infitah, was an empty mouth letter, and there was a gap between the tongue and the palate, except for the letter Kha. Kha had the gap, infitah, but the Kha had what? Full mouth. Okay, isti'la. Other than the letter Kha, so far in the Arabic alphabet, every letter was istifal and infitah. Okay, and this is the first letter now, the letter Sad, that has neither of these 2 qualities. It doesn't have istifal, but rather isti'la, full mouth. It doesn't have infitah, but rather it has the sifa of itbaq. Okay, where the sound is caught. You got to capture the sound before it's released. So it has hams and rikhwa. It has isti'la. It has itbaq. They are your 5 sifat. And the 6th one, it's the last letter of the category of safir. Where I mentioned safir had 3: Zay, Seen, and Sad. Okay? So let's look at the difference between Seen and Sad. Okay? So Seen. As was sama. Was-sama. So my tongue is actually open. Okay? My tongue is open. Was-sama. But in this one, as-sabir. So I'm trapping the sound, okay, in my tongue. And the whistle sound is as. That whistle sound, okay, where the A continues. So it's the continuation of the A. Tamam? So you've got the sifa of rikhawa in there, you've got the sifa of hams in there, you've got the sifa of ismat in there, you've got the sifa of safir, itbaq, and isti'la. The next one, number 15. This is the letter that is the mother of all letters. Okay? This is the main letter or the most difficult letter in the Arabic alphabet that would require your good attention, inshallah. The Can you tell the sifat of Hamza? Hamza we've covered in the beginning. Okay, I need to complete the lesson. So once the lesson is uploaded, inshallah, after the class is completed, watch the video again. The first letter I talk about is Hamza. Alif I haven't covered yet. So when I come to Alif, I'll make another comparison at the end, inshallah. The letter Dad, the makhraj of letter Dad was hafatul lisan, the side of the tongue. And I mentioned it's the whole side, from the back of the tongue to the ra'sul lisan, to the front, the whole side, right or left. And I mentioned yesterday, and when we studied the makharij al-huruf, that the letter Dad is the most difficult letter, it's the most hardest letter to pronounce. And I'm going to require very good attention from yourselves to understand. If not, you'll be confused. So the letter Dad has certain characteristics. Let's look at the characteristics individually first. The first characteristic I want to take the letter Dad, take your attention towards, is that the letter Dad has the sifa of jahr. So jahr literally means that the breath must stop. A must stop. Okay, so remember that. So if you want to make notes, you can write down, or somebody wants to write in the comments, can write number 1, but don't send the comment until I've completed it all. So the first sifa is the stoppage of breath, number 1. The second sifa I want you to write down after that immediately is itbaq. Okay, the sifa of itbaq, which is the stoppage of and holding the sound. Yeah, holding the sound. So you write holding the sound. That's the second sifa I want you to write. The third sifa I want you to write rikhawa. Rikhawa, which means stoppage of sound. 3. The fourth one that I want you to write down is the isti'la. The fourth one Isti'la. And the fifth one that I want you to write down is istitala. Istitala. So there's the five sifat that you should have written down now. Even though there's the sixth sifat, which I haven't really mentioned, is the sifat of ismat. Okay, but that doesn't involve the quality of sound. These five sifat, if somebody can put it into the comments, inshallah. Just write them all together. So I've got stoppage of breath. Number two, I've got stoppage of holding the sound. Holding the sound. The third one should be rikhawa, which is a stoppage of sound. Sorry, rikhawa, the continuation of sound. Rikhawa, continuation of sound. And then you've got the raised back of the tongue and itbaq and istitala. These are the characteristics of the letter Dad. So how do we pronounce this now? Let's look at these characteristics that you've written down. So firstly, where's the makhraj of the letter? Where's the makhraj of the letter? The makhraj of the letter is the hafat al-lisan. So imagine this is my tongue now. You're looking at my tongue from the front. Okay, that's my tip of my tongue. That's the back of my tongue. The first thing I need to do is got the sifa of isti'la. Isti'la means I got to raise the back of my tongue. Okay, so I have to raise the back of the tongue. So here I've raised the back of the tongue to pronounce the letter Dad. The next thing I need to focus on is when I pronounce it from the side of my tongue, either side, whichever side I'm going to use. As I'm pronouncing, the side must touch my al-adras teeth, the teeth on the side, al-adras. So my hafat al-lisan must touch my al-adras teeth. Tamam? So when these teeth touch, okay, remember I mentioned that the front of the tongue might also touch your sanaya ulya or rubaiyat, no problem. Okay, your tongue will touch other teeth, but the main focus is the pressure should be on the left hand side. It's the only letter in the Arabic alphabet that's not recited from your vertical center line, but rather it's off the vertical center line. It's either from the right or the left. So the side of the tongue must touch the al-adras teeth. So far, I've raised the back of the tongue, isti'la. I've also touched the makhraj with the teeth. Okay. So the next sifa, let's look at, is the stoppage of breath. The breath must stop. How do we stop the breath? How do we stop the breath? Walad, walad. Okay. So the way we stop the breath, we use the sifa of al-itbaq. Okay? The sifa of al-itbaq. Itbaq is where your roti and boti, remember? Where you're capturing the sound. Okay? So the breath's going to stop and your tongue's going to be rolled up, touching all the teeth. Touching all the teeth above. Okay? So the roof of the mouth. You're touching the roof of the mouth. But the outside of your tongue will brush against all of the teeth. Okay? So now we've got to walad, 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 walad. Okay. That's not the complete letter. There's some more characteristics we need to look at. Okay? The side of the tongue has touched the makhraj. We've raised the back of the tongue. The breath has come out. We've stopped the breath. Okay? We've stopped the sound with itbaq. So how do you pronounce? So as the sound and the breath has come up into the mouth, a lot of pressure builds up in your mouth in this letter. So walab, 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 a lot of pressure. Walab, okay. Once this pressure has built up inside the mouth, and the sounds built up in the mouth, the air is built up in the mouth, this must explode somehow. Okay, so I'm talking about explosion of a letter. Okay, for the record. So this explosion will be what? The istitala. Istitala. So we must stretch the tongue. So which side are we stretching? You're either stretching the left hand side or the right hand side. So now look at my mouth. Walab, walab, walab. I'm stretching my tongue forward. I'm moving my tongue forward. I'm stretching it. I'm ironing my tongue out. Okay? That's the sifa of istitala. Walab, walab. Once I've got to that position and I've stretched my tongue out and all that pressure is built up in my above my between my tongue and my palate in my mouth, then the controlled explosion will be from the side of my mouth, either the right hand side or either the left hand side. So look at my cheeks now. Walabda, 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 walabda. So I'm doing it from my right hand side. So this is my right. I don't know if you're seeing the picture the right way or it comes out flipped. So I'm drinking with my right hand. So you might see as my left hand. Allah knows best. Anyway, so walabda. So walabda, walabda. You see the little flip or flick of my cheek? Okay, that's the explosion, the controlled explosion of the letter Dad. Okay, so again, I'll come closer. Walabda, 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 walabdallin. That's the letter of Dad. Arabic language is known as the language of Dad. Why it's so difficult to pronounce this letter, especially for non-Arabs. Okay, it's not impossible. I'm not an Arab. Okay, so it's not impossible. If you work hard, you can pronounce it correctly, inshallah. I hope that makes sense. So the whole of today's exercise, okay, it's for all the huruf, but in particular the letter Dad. Okay, so letter Dad is the most difficult one to pronounce. So when you're reciting Salah, okay, in Surah Fatiha, غير المغضوب غير المغضوب do from the side غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Okay, that's your letter Dad. So it's all about the letter Dad. If you could pronounce this letter, inshallah, you should be able to pronounce the remaining Arabic letters, inshallah. So quick recap. What are the sifat of letter Dad? Jahr, isti'la, itbaq, istitala, ismat, okay, and rikhawa. They are your sifat of the letter Dad. So total 6 sifat in the letter Dad, inshallah. Makhraj number 16, the letter Ta. Ta. It has the sifa of Jahr, Shidda, both in there. Jahr and Shidda, where the A stops and so does the sound. Ta. At-ta. At-ta. Now, due to the sifat of Jahr and Shidda, obviously it's going to have the sifa of Qalqala. Yeah? It's going to have the sifa of Qalqala. Ta. Ta. Ta also has the sifa of Itbaq. where the sound gets trapped. So, for example, وَالسَّمَاءِ وَالطَّارِقِ. What? So I'm capturing that sound between the tongue and the hanak, the palate. It's also a full mouth letter. The back of the tongue must be raised. The back must be raised. So, وَالسَّمَاءِ وَالطَّارِقِ. To, to. The back must be raised. And it's also a smart letter. Okay? The geography of the letter is from the back. Okay? Not from the edge, like the izlaq letters. So, to, tarf lisan you're using. Okay? Not the side. So the letter ta has qalqala, atto, ito, utto. Now remember one thing about the letter dad. Dad did not have qalqala. Okay, there's no qalqala in the letter dad. So why did letter dad not have a qalqala? That's another 10 guinea question. If anybody's got the answer, put it down into the comments, inshallah. Why did the letter dad not have a qalqala? A stopped, everything stopped. No. Everything was on a standstill with the letter dad. Why not qalqala? It should have had a qalqala in there. If anybody knows the answer, put into the comments. I'll give the answer at the end of the lesson, inshallah. The next makhraj, the next letter is the letter dha. Dha. Now, dha has the sifa of jahr. It has the sifa of isti'la. It's a full mouth letter. Okay, it has itbaq in there also. Dha is also an ismat letter. And last one, rikhawa. These are your sifat for the letter dha. 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 The difference between the letter dha and the letter ta is what? Is the sifa of shidda. Okay? And that's a hint towards the question I asked in regards to the letter dad, because it has rakhawa to allow the continuation of sound. Qalqala, at what stage do I actually mention the word qalqala? No qalqala to differentiate between the letter dal and dad. Possible, but it's not the complete answer. Keep writing the answers and I'll have a look at the end. So letter dha, you got jahr, you've got isti'la, itbaq, ismat, and rikhawa. Dha also has 5 sifat. The next letter, ayn. Ayn. I touched upon ayn yesterday in regards to the tawassut letter. So let's look at the complete sifat. It has the sifa of jahr with the sound, where the a must continue. Ayn also is an ismat letter. It's from further back. Ayn is a tawassut letter. Tawassut means the sound must not stop and it mustn't also continue. Sorry, come here. Give me a cup of tea. Green tea. So then you've got the letter Ayn, tawassut. So the sound doesn't stop and it doesn't totally continue. And then you've got istifal and infitah. Istifal is where the back of the tongue, it's lowered, so it's not a full mouth letter. And also infitah, there's a partition, a gap between the tongue and the palate. And that's something that you must remember with the letter Ayn. Now, a lot of people will make mistakes and recite, for example, عَمَّ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. Full mouth, no. عَمَّ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. Not yeah. Or جوز عمّة. لا عمّة. So Ayn does require a little attention, inshallah, to perfect. The next one is the letter ghayn. Gha. Okay. Ghain is also a jahr letter. It has isti'la, it's a full mat letter, unlike the letter Ain. It's also an ismat letter. Okay, Ghain, and Ghain has rikhawa and infitah. Rikhawa and infitah. Number 20, fa. Fa is an idlaq letter. Okay, the third one we've covered so far. We covered the ba, we've covered the ra, and the fa. Okay, idlaq meaning from the front. So fa is an idlaq letter. It also has hams, it also has rikhawa, it also has istifal and infitah, meaning it's an empty mouth letter. The tongue is parted from the palate and the breath continues, and so does the sound. Fa, f, ida, f, ida. The next one, letter qaf. Qaf has two very strong sifas, which is jahr and shidda. Jahr and shidda, where the breath stops and so does the sound stop. Okay, it's a full mouth letter, qa, 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 and it has a qalqala. That's the fifth and the last letter in the Arabic alphabet in this category of qalqala. So we've done the ba first, then jeem, then dal, then ta, then qaf is the last one. Qaf is also an ismat letter, okay, from aqsa lisan. And the last sifa is infitah, meaning there's no itbaq in the qaf, the tongue is parted from the palate. So qaf sifat are jahr, shidda, isti'la, qalqala, and ismat and infitah. Next letter, kaf. Kaf. Also from aqsa lisan. It doesn't have a jahr in there, but it has shidda. Okay? So the breath continues. Okay? So it has shidda, the sifa of shidda. It has a sifa of ismat, sifa of hams, istifal, and infitah. So 5 sifat in the letter kaf. 23, letter number 23, lam. Lam has jahr, the sifa of jahr in there. Lam also is an idlaq letter. So idlaq, this is the fourth idlaq letter now I'm mentioning. So we mentioned ba, ra, fa, and lam. This is the fourth one now. Lam also is a tawassut letter, where the sound doesn't continue and the sound doesn't actually stop neither, like ain. Okay? So it's a tawassut letter, and this is the third tawassut letter we're mentioning. So we discussed ra, we discussed ain, and now lam. And the last two sifat, istifal and infitah. It's not a full mouth letter and it's open. That makes your 5 sifat for the letter lam. But lam also has a 6th sifa. Okay? The 6th sifa is the sifa of inhiraf. So inhiraf is found in 2 letters, lam and ra. Lam and ra. So lam and Ra. They're your two letters of inhiraf. So lam also has six letters, six sifat. Next one, meme. So the makhraj for meme is shafatain. Okay, it's from your lips. Meme has the sifa of jahr, sifa of jahr. Meme is also an idlaq letter. So this is the fifth idlaq letter we're mentioning. So ba, ra, fa, lam, and meme. So it has a sifa of idlaq. It's also a tawassut letter. It also has the sifa of tawassut. And the last two in meme are istifal and infitah. Istifal meaning empty mouth. Infitah meaning it's open. Okay, the gap between the tongue and the palate. The next one, 25th makhraj, which is the meme, noon, 25th letter of the Arabic alphabet. We've only got a few more letters to go, inshallah. Yes. So it's not going to be too long, inshallah, now. So the letter noon. Now, noon has the sifa of jahr. Noon also has the sifa of idlaq. It also has a sifa of tawassut. Noon also has the sifa of istifal. Noon also has the sifa of infitah. That's 5. So noon has 5 sifat. Noon has 5 sifat. But with noon, you can make like a little open brackets, a little note next to the noon. That when the letter noon has a tashdid, when the letter noon has a tashdid, or when the letter noon is mushaddad, you have a little shadda on top of it, a little W. Okay? Then the sifa of ghunna would also be with the letter noon. And the reason why I'm asking you to mention, write this down, because some tajweed books you will find ghunna as a sifa, ghunna as a characteristic, even though the text that we've covered in the Tuhfa al-Atfal is not mentioned. So hence why I'm asking you to write it down in the brackets, just in case you come across another tajweed book and then you start messaging me, Qari Sahib, he taught us wrong. And I wouldn't want that phone call. So noon has 5 sifat. Okay, so noon has 5 characteristics. The next one, ha. Now this is the, I don't like saying it, but it's the 2-eyed ha. Okay, 2-eyed ha. Now this ha is an ismat letter. The makhraj is aqsal halq, the furthest letter. Okay, the furthest letter along with the letter Hamza. So it has ismat sifa due to the geography of the letter, where it's born from, where the makhraj is. The 4 sifat that it has that are based upon the quality of its sound are hams, rekhawa, infitah, and istifal. So the breath continues, the sound continues, it's an empty mouth letter, and the tongue and the palate are parted. Tamam? Now the question that arises, Meme has the gunna too, right? Yes. So meme also, you could put the same bracket around meme as well. Sheikh Sulaiman al-Jamzuri rahimahullah mentioned وَغُنَّ مِيمًا ثُمَّ نُونًا شُدِّدًا وَسَمِّي كُلًا حَرْفَ غُنَّةٍ بَدًا. وَغُنَّ مِيمًا ثُمَّ نُونًا شُدِّدًا. وَغُنَّ, perform غُنَّة. Yeah, perform غُنَّة فعل أمر. وَغُنَّ مِيمًا ثُمَّ نُونًا, do غُنَّة on the meme and the noon. When? شُدِّدًا, when they are with tashdid. وَسَمِّي كُلًا, and the name both of them, call both of them, or the ulama have called them what? وَسَمِّي كُلًا حَرْفَ غُنَّةٍ بَدًا. Okay, they're going to be called what? The letters of ghunna. So letters of ghunna are not noon and meme, but noon mushaddad and meme mushaddad. Okay, so the ghunna is not the characteristic of noon, because noon doesn't have a tashdid. Noon does not have, meme does not have tashdid. Okay, so they won't have ghunna. Only when they have tashdid on there. That's the only time when the ghunna comes in. And remember what, I'm not sure if I mentioned ghunna. The difference between ghunna and ikhfa. Okay, I'm sure Imam Ammar Hafiz will be talking about this in the Tuhfa program, and so would Sheikh Israr, Imam Israr from Nottingham, when they're going to be doing the Muqaddimah Ibn al-Jazari course next month. So do enroll onto that. It's a very, very important course and very in-depth. It covers makharij and sifat all over again. And the more you study the same thing again and again and again and again, the stronger you will become. I was never born, good at tajweed or knowing the rules and being able to teach. Um, my tajweed used to be very, very poor at one point in my life. And I record very clearly. Um, and the only reason why I've improved is by teaching. I teach again and again and again. And we'll finish all these courses by next month, inshallah. And then in Ramadan, I'll do courses again. Teach again, sit down, teach again. And I just completed a Tuhfat al-Atfal course with the Rashad Academy online Tuhfa course just recently. I think it was last month or the month before. So constant teaching and going through the same thing again and again. Repetition makes you stronger and makes you know your tajweed better, inshallah. So the noon and the meme, okay, there's no ghunna, only when they have tashdid. So the difference I was going to mention between ghunna and ikhfa, okay, ghunna is when the complete sound comes through the nose. The breath, the sound, everything comes through the nose. That's ghunna, okay. Whereas ikhfa on a meme or on noon, it's when it's separated between the mouth and the nose. Inshallah. 26 was the letter ha, if we just completed. 26. So 27. So letter number 27, wow. Please repeat ha again. Yes, so ha was ismat. Then hams, rikhawa, infitah, and istifal. So 5 sifat in the letter ha. So 27, wow, the letter wow. So wow is a jahr letter. Sifa of jahr, ismat, رخاوة, استفال, انفتاح, and he has a sixth one, which is lean. The sifa of lean, easiness, like oh, bow, toe, so, Joe. So it has the sifa of lean. So the waw has a sifa of lean. So lean literally means ease, meaning it's very easy to pronounce. Like wassama, wassama, very easy. Wah, 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 wah. Just roll the tongue into a circular fashion and your waw's done. Okay. After the letter waw, you've got the letter ya. Ya is also a jar letter. And then after jar, it has the sifa of ismat. Number 2, ismat. It has rikhawa, just like the waw. It has istifal, just like the waw. It has infitah, just like the waw. And it has the sifa of ya. Ya has the sifa of lean also. Ya. Ya. Very easy to pronounce. Ya. يا أيها المدثر يا أيها المزمل. Very, very easy, very, very light. So due to this ease, he has a sifa of lean, which is different from maddul lean. Okay, the mad of lean is different. This is the sifa of lean. Lean just means easy, and mad lean meaning the easy mad. Yeah, the soft, easy mad on the harfain waw and ya. That's 28 letters we've covered. The last letter now, the last letter is alif, 29. So letter number 29, which is alif, the last one. Not the first one, the last one. Alif here also is a jahar letter, just like waw and ya. It's also an ismat letter, just like waw and ya. It also has hams, rikhawa, istifal, and infitah, just like waw and ya. Okay? The only thing that alif doesn't have is the sifa of lean. Alif does not have the sifa of lean. So alif only has 5 characteristics. So alif is jahar, ismat, hams, rikhawa, infitah, and istifal. Make sense? And that's your entire makharij complete. Now, makharij and sifat. With the letter alif, just like the letter ra, there are some special cases where alif can be recited as a full mouth letter, or it could be an empty mouth letter. Alif can be full mouth. Alif can also be empty mouth. Again, page number 45. So 44 was the ra section in the Tuhfat al-Atfal book, and it's on page 45 in regards to the alif. You could read more about that in the Tuhfat al-Atfal book, published by Zain Publications, which is my older brother. So you could purchase a book from online and read more further up. And there's much more details in this book. Hadith on the Fadail of Quran by Mullah Ali Qari Rahimahullah. It's got the background of Tajwīd. It's got the Imams of Tajwīd and the Ulama of Tajwīd. And it's got so much more that you can read and learn from, inshallah. So A quick little recap. Jahr letters in total were 19. Shidda letters were 8. Isti'la letters were 7 only. Itbaq was only 4 letters. Remember the 4 letters? Sad, Dad, and Ta. Sad, Dad, Ta, and Za. Qalqala had 5 letters. Qutubu Jaddin, we all should know that already. Safir had 3. Zayn, Seen, and Sad. Inhiraf had 2, Lam and Ra. Tafashi, only 1, the letter Sheen. Istitala, only 1, letter Dad. Taqreer, only 1 letter, which is the letter Ra. Ismat is 23. Idlaq is 6. Tawassut is 5. Hams is 10. Rikhawa is 16. Istifal 22. Infitah 25. And Leen, the last one, only 2. Okay, so the biggest sifa with the most letters from are infitah, okay, which is 25. Okay, the rest of them were all less. Now I asked a question in regards to the letter Dad. Why do we not do qalqala on the letter Dad? Okay, so the answer is quite simple. If you look at all the qalqala letters now, you should have written all the sifats down. Okay, if you haven't, you can rewatch the video again, inshallah, and do write them down. It does help. So look at the Qaf, Ta, Ba, Jeem, Dal, the 5 letters that you're going to do qalqala upon. All 5 of these letters have a common denominator, have something that's very, very common. Let's look at the first one. Ba. Ba had Jahr and Shidda. Jeem has Jahr and Shidda. Dal has Jahr and Shidda. Ta has Jahr and Shidda. Qaf has Jahr and Shidda. Okay. Letter Dad has Jahr only, no Shidda. Okay. Because the letter Dad does not have Shidda. Okay. Where the sound actually stops. Because sound in the letter Dad does not actually stop. Yeah. The letter Dad has a sifa of rikhawa. The sound continues. Okay. How does the sound continue? Listen very carefully. Let me get the mic close to myself. Walad. This sound. Okay. Some you know the pigeon. The pigeon hammam, okay? The pigeon. You know the pigeon makes that sound, the pigeon sound. That sound, okay? Some ulama have described the letter Dad as the sound of a pigeon, okay? So the sound that you get from a pigeon, that's a sound that you need to be able to hear yourself doing. You not necessarily will hear me, so I would have to have the mic very close to me. So if I've got the mic right next to my neck, walad. Okay, so that's the sound that you need to be making when you're reading the letter Dad. Okay, the sound does not actually stop. The sound actually continues. Okay, so due to the letter Dad not having the sifa of shidda, okay, we will not be doing the qalqala upon the letter Dad. So when you recite now in the Quran, we're going to practice loads on the letter Dad next week. We're going to spend like evenings on letter Dad, hours. Like I'll give you an example. وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ, not وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ. وَضْ. I'm doing qalqala, which is incorrect. وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ, incorrect. So وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مثلا. Yeah? وَضْرِبْ. Tamam? And remember the rikhawa letters are the longest letters. Wad. So you're elongating. Yeah? Whereas the shidda letters are the short and sharp. Remember? Yes. Tab. Shirun, the example we gave yesterday. Yes. Long. Tab. Shidda very short. Shirun. Tawassut with the noon. Tamam? So do bear that in mind. There's a lot to absorb um, with Makharij and Sifat. And people were shocked when I said I want to do a Tajwid course just on Sifat and Makharij. And they were like, Qari Sahib, man, I'm sure in 1 week you could teach, much more than just Makharij and Sifat. But Makharij and Sifat, I can teach over 1 whole year and I wouldn't finish. There's so much to learn, so much to compare. There's so much behind it in the making and the chemistry of letters. It's fascinating. Alhamdulillah. Let me just look at some questions. Let's start from here. Can you tell the sifat of Hamza and Alif? So the sister was asked about the Hamza and Alif. You should know the difference now. Alif is identical to Ya and Waw except for the sifa of Leen. Whereas the Hamza has Jahr and Shidda. Alif only has Jahr, it does not have Shidda. Yeah? In the Hamza, there's a glottal stop like J, J, stops, abrupt. Whereas in the Alif, it isn't. Ja, ja, yeah? More natural. That's the difference between Alif and Hamza. Stoppage your breath, stoppage your breath. So before uploading, I would suggest time marking the video. That way, each section would be easy to follow. Jazakallah. I don't know how to do that. Brother Naveed, you could private message me, the numbers on the screen, and teach me and be my teacher, inshallah. And I'll pay you for that. Hafatul Lisan, yes, it makes sense. Okay, I am having the pop on my left side. That's fine. The letter Dod can be pronounced from the right or the left. So if you're using the left hand side, that's fine. Using the right hand side, that's fine. As long as you're having it from the side. The letter Ta is the strongest letter of the Arabic alphabet. Sifat al-huruf are divided into sifat that are strong, sifat that are in between, and sifat that are da'if. Okay? Make a note of this as well quickly. That's a very good point. Ikram Salman mentioned. What are the strongest sifat? So write the list down. So sifatul harf al-qawiyya, the strongest ones are what? Jahr, shidda, isti'la. Jahr, shidda, isti'la. Itbaq, qalqala. Itbaq, qalqala. Safir, انحراف تفشي استطالة and تكرير. Okay, then you got the متوسط ones which are إسمات إذلاق and توسط, and then you've got the ضعيف ones, yeah, which are همز رخاوة استفال انفتاح and لين. Hams, Rekhawa, Istifal, Infitah, and Leen. They're your weak sifat. Now, depending on which letter has the most or the least strong sifat or weak sifat, that's how you would deter which ones are the strong sifat and which ones are the weak ones. So the one that you've mentioned, the letter Ta, Ta has 5 from the strong, okay, and 1 from the tawassut. So you have to compare that with the remaining letters. Which other letter has 5 or more, and then he has a tawassut letter. So every single Arabic alphabet letter will have one of the weak letters in there as a sifa. Like for example, I'll tell you the least ones. Alif has, Hamza has 2. Ba has 2 from the weak, 3 from the strong. Letter Dad has 1 from the weak, 1 from the weak, 1 from in between. Okay, Ismat. So and the remaining 4 from the strong sifat. And the letter Ta is the only one that has no weak sifa. So therefore, it is the strongest letter, the heavyweight letter of the Arabic alphabet. So that was brother who mentioned that. Ikram Suleiman. So your statement, the letter Ta is the strongest letter of the Arabic alphabet, is correct. Is that correct, Sheikh? Yes, it is correct. Because the Rakhawa, okay. No, Kalkala. Yes, the reason why there's no Kalkala on the letter Dad is because of the sifa of Shidda. It doesn't have Shidda. Please repeat Ba. Ba had Jar, Shidda, Qalqala, Izlaq, Istifal, and Infitah. But you can watch the video again. Very true. And eye opener. True. Jazakallah khair. Wafiqa barakallah. Keep me in du'as, inshallah. Tomorrow, it's a very important topic. Again, it's probably another topic that you've probably not studied before or in depth, which is going to be the waqf and ibtida, where to stop and how to stop when reciting the Quran and how to continue, how to begin reciting, inshallah. That's quite important. It's another neglected topic, just like Sifat al-Huruf. And now you probably will believe me that Sifat al-Huruf is not just a pushover topic. And all these Sifat that we've talked about today, these are permanent Sifat. Okay? Permanent meaning take one of these Sifa away from the letter, that letter is no longer that letter. For example, the letter Qaf. Take the full mouth out of the letter Qaf, is no longer that letter. Letter Dad. Dad had the istitala. Yeah? Stretching the tongue. Don't stretch the tongue. You're not pronouncing the letter Dad anymore. So if you're reciting Salah and you're reading Warad Dalin, Warad Da from the front of the mouth, your Fatiha is incomplete. That's a Lahn al-Jali. Lahn al-Jali meaning a mistake that is zahir, is apparent. Okay, it's a big mistake. Yes, your Salah would not be accepted. The ulama mention the minimum requirement of Tajwīd is that you understand and your Salah is correct, that your Salah is accepted. That's the minimum requirement of Tajwīd. So you need to understand that. So it's very, very important to understand not just the makharij, but also the characteristics. So now when you're teaching children or your own children, for example, Nur al-Bayan or Nurani Qaida or any of these Arabic alphabets to children, do try to incorporate the sifat in there. So when you're telling the child ba, tell them to lower the tongue. It's an empty mouth letter. Yeah? Not ba. Yeah? Lam, for example, lam, wrong. Lam. Why is it lam? Because empty mouth, infitah. Yeah? And the back istifal, the tongue is dropped. Yeah? Lam. Tell them the makhraj, tell them the sifat. You don't need to give them the names and don't overcomplicate tajweed for the children and scare them away. But go through each one and try to explain to them, inshallah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy and keep me in your du'as until tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Sorry for taking over an hour and a half. Barakallah feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.